Our next guest is sending a warning to fellow Republicans to clear the field for a strong candidate, he says, who will oppose Donald Trump for the Republican presidential nomination. I want to bring in New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, who's here at the table this morning, who stayed up late last night to watch the fireworks.
And there were fireworks, and that's what people wanted to see. And that's
so what was your takeaway as you were watching all 2 hours?
Yeah,
all 2 hours.
Who is that candidate?
So a couple things. People saying, well, there's no clear front-running candidate. There were 8 people on the stage. No one had more than 12 minutes. If you were waiting for one person to emerge, that wasn't ever going to happen. The problem for Donald Trump is that the field is winnowing, right? There's 3 or 4 candidates that were not on that stage, so already we winnowed. There were a few candidates there that, you know, Asa and Doug Burgum, Tim Scott, they're great candidates. They needed to inject themselves in the conversation.
And you think they did not?
No, not enough. They only got about 8 minutes of time.
Right.
Obviously, Pence and Nikki Haley especially really captured the moment. Nikki only had 8.5 minutes of speaking time, yet really took advantage of that. And so you got to give her a lot of credit.
What about DeSantis? I was
Everybody
surprised
went
that
after
there
Vivek.
wasn't a lot of attention.
That's right, and that was Governor DeSantis' opportunity. He looked right at the camera. He was clear. He was concise. I think he looked very presidential. He wasn't being attacked, and that gave him a lane to really make his case directly to the Republican
I saw
voter.
his first. He got the first question, and I thought he did well on the first question. But then, in reading the commentary after that, that was his best moment.
Well, I don't think so. I think, again, everyone had thought that he was going to get attacked, and it all went, obviously, against Vivek. Right. I think Mike Pence and Nikki Haley have reinvigorated their campaigns. They were a little quiet for a while. They reinvigorated
What did you think of the Vivek, Vivek's ability to effectively bait the entire stage to focus on him, and whether attention, maybe for attention's sake, is a good thing or not?
That it's a good thing for Vivek. He's one of the more unknown candidates. He took a lot of shots, but this is what you want. I've been on a lot of debate stages. You want, first, not to melt down, right? Not have your Rick Perry moment, God bless it. You want to make sure that you're talked about at the end, which he is, and you want to make sure that you get some of the most time, which he did. So for an unknown candidate to capture in those, I think he did what he should have done. He should be happy. Even though he got attacked a lot, he should be happy. He stood in the center.
What about the guy who was not on the stage, who, by the way, for the first hour was almost unnamed?
That's right.
There was like no name checking. We were talking about how, at least on our phones or iPads or other screens, some of us were trying to watch a little bit of the X interview, which started with, you know, whether Jeffrey Epstein had been killed or not. What was did you watch that at the same time?
No. Look,
he did not take the bait. He wouldn't say.
He didn't take the bait.
So we still don't know.
He said he probably killed himself.
It was sort of it was a Bill Barr question about whether Bill Barr was actually doing the work that he should have been done to investigate. That was sort of the other piece
all at the
of it.
top.
Yeah.
What did you say?
All at the top of the interview.
Right at the top.
I think the first question was, why are you not at the interview? The second question was basically, do you think Jeffrey Epstein was killed?
You know, just handing Trump conspiracy theories is like, you know, giving candy to a kid. He's going to run with it.
But he didn't. No, but he didn't run with it. That was the interesting part.
No, but like candy to a kid, he ends up spazzing and going in 100 different directions. No one was more upset about Trump not being mentioned in the first hour than Trump. He wanted the debate to be about him. The only 2 ways people say, oh, Trump won the debate. I saw Axelrod say that. Not true. If they talked about Trump the whole time, he would have won the debate. If everyone fell flat, he would have won the debate. But they showed life. 4 candidates, especially in the middle, really showed some life and some fire.
Okay, you're in the Moneyball business, which is to say that you have to raise money in this universe. What do you think the big money is saying this morning? Are they sending checks to DeSantis? Are they sending checks to Nikki Haley? Are they sending checks to Vivek? How does this work?
I think,
and how quickly will we know?
Nikki and Pence's campaigns are a little more invigorated. Folks that didn't know Vivek are going to start getting behind him. DeSantis has already done, I think, very well with money. But what they showed was that's the future of the Republican Party without Trump. And that's exciting. To the money. Most of the money isn't behind Trump, right? The big money donors and all that, they wanted to see a future without Trump, and they saw it. And I think that's exciting to them, a huge possibility. And remember, if it gets down to one-on-one, Trump loses. He has a very high floor at 32, 33%. But for an incumbent former president, he has a very low ceiling.
Do you think he will ultimately sit on a debate stage or stand on a debate stage with the other candidates?
Yeah, eventually his numbers are going to start ticking down, and he's going to have to get on the stage. He's not going to like that they really start attacking him. And like I said, if it gets down to one-on-one, that's where he's in real trouble. He may capture 47% of the Republican vote.
You're saying one-on-one against Biden?
Well, no, one-on-one against another Republican.
Do you think? Okay.
His fear is that they have the discipline to winnow it down, which is exactly.
But if it's him and Vivek, who, by the way, seems to love Trump, what happens?
It'll go to Vivek. Yeah, people want a new face. they'll see Trump 2.0 in him, and they'll want a new face, and they'll go there. They'll do that with DeSantis. They'll do that with almost any of the candidates. And all of them can beat Biden.
Larry Ellison said he was going to give 8 figures to Tim Scott, maybe.
I don't know for sure.
But you think last night maybe was...
No, look, Tim is he's a great candidate. He knows his stuff. He didn't interject himself. I think he just had to show a little more energy. But there's lots of debates, guys. The next few weeks, we're going to see more and more debates.
You think Nikki Haley could somehow catch fire?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, look, she kind of woke everybody up. This is why she's been in it with her expertise. She showed that she has fight in her. She put Vivek in his place in a couple different instances, and people loved it.
If he's minus 32, for starters, and you know it's 32. You already mentioned that 32. He's minus that 32. They'll never support him.
He has a ceiling. No, he definitely has a ceiling. There's no doubt. He's one of the most well-spoken statesmen.
You know, you're really good.
There,
what's your problem? Are you going to run for Senate?
No, I'm not running for anything. I'm going to send you guys resumes.
You know what you would be great at? CNN.
I'd be great at CNN.
You would be great at CNN. You would bring in some balance.
They're looking for a CEO.
They wouldn't hate you like Jim Jordan's not.
I like CNN. CNN's a great. I like them all. I got you.
So you like CNN?
Oh, sure, I like CNN.
So you're headed there.
Anybody? Yeah. What?
Well, if you're not running for office, that's what all politicians do when they're not running for office.
No, I'm a business guy. I'm a business guy that is temporarily in politics. I'm going to go back to business.
Would you prefer a CNBC contributor, or would you?
No, I'm not looking for a gig. Look, I have my opinions. I'm a little brash in it, I suppose.
People put me on. You're well-spoken. You're very handsome and young. Not as young as the picture we showed, but you are.
Well, look, if you want to be good at politics, you got to understand business and economics and how it all works. And again, some of us kind of get that. And
God bless me. You should be an advertisement for CNBC.
You're the only person I've ever met with 4 U's. 3 U's.
3
in a name. It's amazing.
We'll do math later. You did go to MIT.
I had to count it up.